Hi, I'm Elizabeth at the Radford Public Library, and in honor of Banned Book Week, which is this week, I'm bringing you an often banned or challenged book, which is one of my favorites. It is The Catcher in the Rye, written by J.D. Salinger. It came out in 1951, and within a couple of weeks, it was on the New York Times bestsellers list in the #1 spot. And it is a cult classic. It has such a devoted following. If you've read this book, you normally love it or hate it, but you aren't normally indifferent to it. The protagonist is Holden Caulfield, and he's 16 or 17 years old. He's just been kicked out of Pincy Prep, which is a boys' private school, and he's on his way home, but making a stop off for the weekend in New York City. Holden is such an interesting character to me. He's one that has always stuck with me. I think I read this book when I was maybe 12 or 13, and I remember being fascinated by his red hunter's cap that he wore when he was by himself, maybe needing a boost of confidence. I thought he was such an interesting fellow, even though he was quite cynical, maybe even a little bit hostile. He's this tall, thin guy who smokes constantly, so I drew him that way, but you really shouldn't smoke. Maybe I should throw that in there. But he would often, in his situations or surroundings, focus on what is phony to him, or what's gripey to him, or what's lousy to him. So he doesn't really have the most positive outlook, which is probably something else as a teen that I appreciated. And in appreciation, actually, I do want to say thank you to Dave Banker for giving me this fantastic Catcher in the Rye t-shirt. Maybe Holden just needed somebody to give him a cool t-shirt like Dave did to me. But Holden Caulfield, to me, is just such a remarkable and memorable character. Whether or not you like him, I think J.D. Salinger did an amazing job bringing him to life. He has experienced some losses, including the loss of his younger brother, who died with cancer. He experienced a suicide at a school that he formerly attended, which has obviously impacted him. And you see that he is really just devolving as the story goes, kind of falling apart, maybe having a nervous breakdown. This is very much a book about his internal monologue, his perspective, and not a book of a whole lot of plot. It's more about just how he views his world, how he takes his experiences at Pincy Prep School and kind of takes that small society and assigns it into a bigger world. And he's just really disenchanted and disillusioned with everything. But what he does love is his little sister Phoebe, and the idea of innocence, and the idea of himself as some sort of savior of that innocence. And that's where the Catcher in the Rye title comes from. So if you haven't read it, I encourage you to give it a try. It was banned for excessive vulgar language, which these days doesn't really stand out at all. Remembering that it was published in the 1950s, some sexual scenes and some things concerning moral issues. These are all reasons why it was banned or challenged. But again, that's The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. And I mentioned that it is Banned Book Week. We are posting as staff some of our favorite banned or challenged books. And so if you interact with those posts on Facebook about banned books in particular, we are entering your name into a drawing for some items that we purchased thanks to the Lamplighters from the American Library Association store. So you could win this very cool reed cap, which I will refrain from putting on my head. And there's a journal called This Journal is Overdue, and it has these great writing prompts inside to get you started with your writing if you'd like to do that. That's something you could win. This really wonderful canvas reed bag from American Library Association is also something you could win. A license plate holder, which is Follow Me to the Library and Read, as well as some bracelets, and I don't know if I showed you this mug. I don't think I did, this Read Banned Books mug. So there are all kinds of little prizes. If you'd like to participate with us on Facebook, we would greatly appreciate it. Hopefully you'll read a banned book along with us, or suggest something that you've read that has been special to you, either a kid's book or an adult book that's been challenged. And you can also go to ala.org to look at some of the banned books from the past. Thanks so much for listening. Take care.